Kelly is the latest big-name head coach to be fired this season, following James Franklin from Penn State, Billy Napier from Florida, and Mike Gundy after 21 seasons at Oklahoma State. Paul Feinbaum joins us now with all the details on this. Welcome in, Paul. I mean, Brian Kelly is owed a bit more than $54 million in his buyout. Was this the right decision for LSU?
It was, for a lot of reasons, but mainly he lost his locker room, he lost his fan base, and the school had no other option. It sounds like a lot of money, and it is a lot of money, but in the world of college football, there is no next chance. We've seen that too many times, and when James Franklin can go for $50 million and Kelly for 54, it means that nobody is safe anymore. Nobody in college football. What's really interesting about this is that the man who hired Brian Kelly at LSU, Scott Woodward, and who's now on the lam for this $54 million, also hired Jimbo Fisher at Texas A&M and had to pay him $76 million. I doubt Scott Woodward's heading to Wall Street anytime soon, people.
Paul, thank you. Let me go, Cam. Cam, let me go here first, please. Paul, first things first. Who's this athletic director that hired both Jimbo Fisher and Brian Kelly? Put up his name, please. What's
his name? Is Scott Woodward. Scott Woodward.
We need a mugshot put on national television right now of that man's face. Cam Newton, $76 million buyout associated with a $54 million buyout. Ladies and gentlemen, that equates to $130 million. Two coaches hired by the same man are being paid not to coach anymore. I need to see a picture of that man, because if that were a player, we'd be calling him out, okay? The same applies to the athletic director. I'm sorry, Scott. I'm quite sure you're a very, very capable man. I'm not advocating for you to be fired, but you owe somebody else some damn money, because you should be giving some of your money back. How the hell you justify that? Who gets to make those kind of mistakes? Who gets to do something like that? $130 million in two buyouts for two coaches not to coach anymore? I mean, my God, that's bad. That's bad. Now, having said that, let me say this. I like Brian Kelly. I think that I've had the pleasure of interviewing him on a couple of occasions in my career, one-on-one. I think that the man can coach football. He was in the wrong place. And this is what Cam has been preaching about to all of us for quite some time. The SEC ain't for everybody. This man messed up when he was introduced to people at an LSU basketball game, for crying out loud. He messed up before spring training, before spring practices started. Okay, we understand all of that. But when you look at his record, when you consider what he's supposed to bring to the table, let's understand, not only was he losing 34-14 record over 4 seasons, doesn't appear that bad, 71% winning percentage, of course. But when you look at what his record was against SEC teams, 19-10 in SEC games, 5-11 versus ranked opponents, 0 college football berths in your 4th year, when the 3 people who succeeded you, Ed Orgeron, Nick Saban, Les Miles, all won a national championship by their 4th year. We're talking about Death Valley. We're talking about LSU, okay? We're talking about the home of our boys Ryan Clark and Swagoo and all of this other stuff, right? And that's what you have, and then you get blown out, give up 35 points in the second half on your own turf, where who would have ever thought we would see half the stadium there emptied? That's what happened in the 3rd quarter. Half the damn stadium was gone. I saw it with my own 2 eyes. I grabbed binoculars that I got in my house to look at my own damn TV. I couldn't believe it. And I was like, this happened at LSU. That's what he had to go right there. I knew in the 3rd quarter it was over. It was a wrap. So I'm just saying, this kind of stuff has to happen. They're sending a message. It's the right message, because it shows you making money hand over foot. Don't tolerate mediocrity. The standard is the standard. And I get that, but in the end, he had to go. But I'm saying that athletic director, if it would, listen, the producers are being nice. Even though I'm the EP, I'm not gonna push it, but I did ask for a picture of that damn athletic director. You understand? His name and his picture. $130 million, Kim. $130 million. You paying 2 coaches not to coach. That's on this man's clock. We need to know who the hell he is.
Yes. So let me interject real quick, and this is not necessarily a message or a discussion point about Brian Kelly, more so than it is a warning for the next person that takes this job. You must understand when you go to the top tier or a tier 1 team in the SEC, and I'm not talking about a tier 1 team by merely talent, skill set, or anything like that. I'm talking about tier 1 as far as budget allocations. When you talk about an LSU, when you talk about a University of Florida, when you're talking about an Alabama, when you're talking about a UGA, those tier 1 budgeted schools in the SEC, and there are more, mediocrity or mediocre coaching will not be tolerated. You must understand that. So anybody who wants to insert their resume for a potential job interview, you must understand, if you don't have intentions to win, and I mean win yesterday, do not take that job, because this is what will happen. When you look at Brian Kelly's overall record versus the SEC, 34-14. Now, some would say, well, he was okay. That's mediocre. The thing that Coach DeBoer has really figured out over in Alabama is say, we have to win football games. It's not even we gotta win. We have to win. It's life or death, and we need to start playing with a sense of urgency. Brian Kelly's demeanor, ever since walking into, the Bayou State, has always been a little lax, a little, that's not what the SEC represents. Especially when you look at the likes of a Nick Saban, who's coached there, Ed Orgeron, who's coached there, LS Miles. They had attitude. Their teams were violent, and they stood on something. So the next person who thinks about coaching LSU or any tier 1 team in the SEC, you can't play around. You have to be intentional, and you have to win fast.
Well, the other thing, before we get back to you, Paul, my producers, evidently they remember who the hell I am, and they have what I requested. Put that up on the screen. That's it right there.
No
That's it right
way.
They dug for that photo.
What's his name again, Paul? Tell him his name.
Scott Woodward.
Scott Woodward.
Woodward.
I want Scott Woodward to know I'm not advocating for you to be fired, sir. I'm not saying that you don't deserve your job or anything like that. But if it were a player or even an owner, somebody that is paying $130 million to a dude not to play, we would know who the hell he is and what he looks like. That's what comes with the job, respectfully. You can't do that. You can't be an athletic director in that position, and you got back-to-back. Like, these are the 2 largest buyouts in college football history. Am I right about that, Paul? Am I right about that?
You are correct.
You can't get around it. Paul, floor is yours. You can't get around it. Can't get around it.
Yeah, he's the second
Well,
largest
by the way,
buyout.
Scott Woodward has hired a number of national championship coaches at LSU, so he is very competent. He just
fine.
What happened with Brian Kelly, he did to himself, Stephen A. Remember, Brian Kelly was at Notre Dame. He played for the national championship in 2012 against Alabama, only lost by 28 points. He played in the playoff 2 other times, but he left Notre Dame on day 1. In addition to the terrible accent, he's from Boston. He said, "I'm going to LSU from Notre Dame to win a national championship," and we all know what happened at LSU. He never got to the playoffs, and at Notre Dame last year, Marcus Freeman, who was his assistant, took Notre Dame to the national championship game, and that really hurt him badly.
Which is why, if you're LSU, your first call should be to somebody like a Lane Kiffin. Your second call should be to a Marcus Freeman, even though he ain't going to be inclined to leave Notre Dame. It should be to a Marcus Freeman. Those are 2 names that come up. I'm mad that I can't say my man Prime Time, because it would have been nice to say him, but Colorado's struggling right now. But the other thing I want to say about this, and I'll hand it to you, Cam, because I know you got something to say real quick. Scott Woodward, here's the deal. I'm not saying you should be fired. I want to be very, very clear about that. I'm not advocating for his dismissal because, Paul, like you said, he's hired a couple of national championship coaches. But it's fair to say this, Paul. The man certainly shouldn't be looking for a raise anytime soon. Is that fair to say? I think that's fair to say.
Yeah.
He should be looking for a raise.
Listen, I think the hottest person right now is Lane Kiffin, but I will be questionable to take that job if I'm Lane Kiffin because you will be chasing somebody else's greatness at any of the schools that are vacant. You will already be compared to not Nick Saban, Urban Meyer if you're at University of Florida. If you go to LSU, you have the likes of Ed Ogeron and, Nick Saban and those guys and Les Miles. If you stay at Ole Miss, if I'm Lane Kiffin, I force the hand to say, give me what I'm owed, and I can build something great that has never been here before. Even with the likes of Eli Manning and the greatness of so many other players in Ole Miss history, you are able to create your own. Let's see what has been done before. That's why Indiana paid their coach, because they understand there will be coaches vacancy and the coaching carousel will move. But if I'm Lane Kiffin and him being such a polarizing person, just with what he did this past weekend with shunning, the player, I love that in a coach. I love the bravado that he brings. But I think he's in the right space right there at Ole Miss because he can create his own narrative, and now he doesn't feel the pressure of everybody else.
I get it, Cam. Oh, I get it. And Mr. Auburn, Mouth of the South with Uncle Paulie. I get it. But Ole Miss, really? I mean, listen, Ole Miss is big time now. But when you talk about recruiting some studs, when you're talking about being a permanent fixture in a national title picture, I think there's a difference between LSU and Ole Miss long term, is what I'm saying, long term. To me, Lane Kiffin and what he's doing at Ole Miss is a testament to his greatness as a coach. Could you imagine what he could do at a program like LSU? I think that's something to take him potentially to that next era where we talking about him like a Kirby Smart, where we talking about him the way folks used to, and I believe will again talk about Dabo Swinney down the line, something like that. You could build it at Ole Miss, but it'll be here this year, then this year, and then it go back up, then it might come down, then go back, it might come down. I'm talking about at LSU, a permanent fixture, nationally televised games, Death Valley, the whole nine. Yo, Lane Kiffin at LSU? I'm sorry. I'm long-term, marathon, not the sprint. I'm thinking LSU. You talk about the sprint, stay at Ole Miss. You talk about the marathon, I'm thinking LSU. Yes, absolutely.
We're gonna have to agree to disagree, Stephen Anthony.
Agreed, Cam. Agreed. And shout out to the real MVPs, the production staff with that Scott Woodward photo with the quick.
It's the truth.
All right.
Don't go for no raise.
Facts.
No raises. No raises.
All right, coming up, Jalen Hurts